What's up everyone, it's Gaijin Gamer here, back with another Summoner's War Lost Centuria video, and today will be episode 4 of my free-to-play journey. So without further ado, let's hop into some gameplay and see how far we can climb up the ladder. Alrighty everyone, and here is matchup 1 out of 3 for today's video. As you can see, my opponent's rocking 2 epic soul stones, one on Lucia, one on Tessarion. Those things are pretty dangerous, so we'll see what we can't do here. As you can see, my opponent's running sort of like a recycle AoE type of comp right here. I just don't know if it has enough sustain, as it's not carrying any dot damage, which puts out quite a bit of raw damage. As always, I'm trying to push the mana advantage early here, so I decided to use my Megan ability, and we're going to just try to see if we can't steal that buff off of the Ramagos right here, in which we're able to do so. And go ahead, just do the World Renown Decelerate Accelerate combo here. My opponent decides to steal my buff, which is good. So next up, we're going to use straight into Beretta here, just to try to cause some raw damage, and my opponent responds with an acceleration, which is not a bad play. He or she may have not had the mana to do anything else. So next up, we're going to go straight into Tessarion here, just to attempt to get some more damage onto my opponents. He's not really starting up his team synergy yet, which I'm kind of surprised. He hasn't really used Lucian in combo with Kodamiya, but maybe here is the start of it. But as you can see, I'm just going to start pushing the advantage here. And as you can see, he's now just starting to recycle that Lucian ability, and we'll see if my team can't out AoE this comp here. And as per usual, I'm just going to try to slow down his mana generation, because that Lucian spell is quite costly at 6 mana. That's one of the more expensive spells in the game, so I think that I kind of have an advantage here just due to that fact. And this nice little soul cleanse, but luckily I was able to get the Tessarion ability off there so I could kill that Kodamiya. I kind of used my transfer here for no reason, but luckily I did, just due to the fact that I kind of baited out my opponent's Chain of Despair there. And we were able to cleanse that as soon as possible. And now kind of entering the back lane of my opponents with good old Lapis still full health. I feel pretty confident just due to the fact that that's her ideal matchup. But my opponent did get the stun with that epic soulstone from Tessarion there. That is one of the more powerful soulstones in the game, in my opinion, and I feel like my opponent probably should have been using his stun a little bit more throughout the matchup. But as you can see, we were able to take out my opponent. Alrighty everyone, and now on to matchup number 2 out of 3 for today's video. And as you can see, my opponent's rocking some deadly epic soulstones in those last 3. Alrighty everyone, and on to matchup number 2 out of 3 for today's video. And as you can see here, my opponent's rocking some deadly soulstones in the last 3 slots of his lineup right there, with Artemiel as well as Lucian and McKean all rocking their nice little epic soulstones. I'm slightly jealous there, but this is going to be quite the good matchup. So starting off, we're just going to go straight into the mana advantage here, just try to push out the mana and see what we can do. We'll see what my opponent does, and he responds with a nice little deceleration there to counteract my play. So next up, we'll go for some AoE damage with Tessarion to see if we can't just chip away at his team here, and we'll see how he responds. Luckily, I used Tessarion instead of something else, just due to the fact that this is going to take down the majority of the shields. I'm going to go straight into a Lapis here, as with the shields being down, one of the other attacks that I have kind of have an added effect, minus my little Soha there, but I'm hoping to get some better value out of that. My opponent's also trying to push the AoE game now, so we'll see who's able to AoE slightly better here. I'm going straight into some dots. My opponent answers quite nicely with the McKean, as well as I kind of misplay into the McKean with my deceleration there. However, I'm not too worried, as I was still able to push a little bit of damage. Next up, we're going to just continue to push some AoE damage with some big old Oblivion crushes with good old Tessarion there. My opponent expertly just, plays some dots. I'm going to try to transfer. I will say oftentimes after I play a transfer, it comes into play where my opponent plays a transfer, but we'll see how this plays out here. Oh my gosh. I couldn't be any more perfect. This is absolutely ridiculous. So we'll see if we can't kind of catch up from here. So I went ahead and used some dots. Hopefully this is going to be pretty dangerous, but luckily most of my team resisted most of those dots, so we're actually not in the worst shape in the world. As you can see, his Ramagos was easily able to finish off my Poseidon there, and he goes for the deceleration game. Luckily, I have a full set of dots on my opponent here, and this is starting to look deadly on his side of the field. So he's going to go ahead and crush my Soha here. I'm going to attempt to crush his front line here. And wow, just things are just dying instantaneously on my opponent's side of the field. And this should spell the end of match 2. Good game. Alrighty everyone, and now on to the third and final matchup of today's video. And I will say that the above 3,000, once you hit that diamond tier, becomes a real grind fest when you're trying to climb up the ladder. So this series may take a while because we're attempting to get to Challenger. So as you can see, my opponent's got sort of like an assassination comp in the back. So we'll see if my AoE comp's able to beat the assassination comp my opponent's running here. And as you can see, we're just going to try to steal this acceleration buff, and my opponent responds with just some damage, just trying to take out my Rakan as fast as possible. I'm going to respond with some deceleration. That was a nice little attack buff for my opponent there. He knew that it was safe as I had already used my Soha to just kind of lay on the buffs. We're just going to continue to push out some raw damage here just to see how my opponent responds, just waiting, and continue to just, keep pushing the mana advantage. Luckily for us, that really wasn't too much damage from that Sophia, so hopefully we'll be able to recover from that. We're just, like I said, just kind of do what my team does best here. Just continue to push, and it's just like the unstoppable force meets the unbreakable object here with the assassination versus the AoE comp. I really do love this matchup, and we'll see my opponent just absolutely crushes my Poseidon there. Goodbye Poseidon. Wow, that Artemil is stacked, and luckily we get this Beretta ability off before this Divine Protection comes down. We're going to attempt to steal this effect here. Unfortunately, we're going to hit the tail end of it, but fortunately for us, my opponent used Colleen, so we're at least able to steal something, including the immunity, so we get the attack buff as well. So my opponent's going to start killing off my front row line by line, and now he's kind of into Lapis territory, and this honestly is starting to become extremely scary. If my opponent starts to spam Lapis here, we are just going to get to see how truly powerful Lapis is. So we'll see if my opponent responds, and I just cannot get to his back line quick enough here. I'm just desperately trying my hardest, but I do not have really any single target in my lineup to really just get through these walls here. And if my opponent is able to use a Lapis ability, this was such a nice flame strike by my opponent. That was absolutely key. Luckily, I was able to transfer off some of this stuns as well as this defense down to my opponent, which was great. So we're looking pretty healthy here, so we'll see what happens. And as you can see, this is absolutely devastating. Luckily for us, we were able to kill off the Commune, and the Chains of Despair was able to go on to Lapis, but oh my gosh, this damage conversion may save the day here. I've got no responses for that, unfortunately, and I'm desperately waiting for that damage conversion to get off, but as you can see, my opponent came out of it, and just, oh my lord, as you can see, especially when there's fire in the back line, Lapis is just absolutely crazy, and I really do not think that I have a chance at this point. And just like that, you can see the true power of Lapis. Alrighty everyone, and a few things before we end today's video. First and foremost, I do want to apologize for the brief lapse of the drought of videos that recently happened here. I apologize as I was traveling for work and was unable to make any videos during that time. Next, I would just like to say that we will be pushing forward with the spotlight videos, so please in the comments below, if you would not mind, just place who you would like to see a spotlight on first. That way we can kind of get to those characters that you all are wanting some extra help with. We're going to cover the runes, we're going to cover the soul stones, we're going to cover the synergies with all those characters, so just please place below who you would like to see first. And then finally, thank you all for watching as always, and without further ado, I'm Gaijin Gamer, signing out.